Well, very good afternoon to you and welcome to Brydon And I know from your replies that you've been enjoying these in-depth conversations I've been conducting with a series of remarkable people. Well, today is no exception. He's a jazz musician extraordinaire, and I happen to know a rather lovely chap too. So without further ado, please welcome Jamie Cullum. And there we are. You're not sat at a piano, are you?
I'm not sat at a piano. I'm sat at my kind of computer. I'm sat at my computer console.
Yeah.
Which is you can see the piano. There's a piano there.
All right. Please don't feel any pressure, Jamie. No pressure at all to add value to this interview by tinkling. I don't. You must not want to tinkle. You tinkle enough.
Did you say devalue?
No, I did not. I said.
Are you sure?
Yes, I am. Now listen. Thank you for doing this. Lovely to see you. I want to talk about your Christmas album. I'm on tour at the moment with a band, and Giacomo Smith of Kansas Smitties, and you have used Kansas Smitties, this wonderful band, on some of the tracks, I believe, on your album. But he played me a bit, and I loved it. You've been working with him, haven't you? So we're kind of almost crossing over.
Absolutely. Well, I know you're never far from musicians, Rob. I know that about you. I think we have lots of people that we know in common in the music world.
I heard Sleigh Ride and Winter Wonderland, which we've heard a million times, but they do it, and your voice works with it beautifully in a and your piano, of course, in a lovely way.
Oh, thank you.
Talking about them being interested in all sorts of music, when we tour, we're sometimes on this little coach together. And Giacomo, who's the clarinet and saxophone, he's always opening me up to new music. He's been pushing a lot of Duke Ellington stuff my way. And he really upped my interest in Louis Prima.
Louis Prima, he's literally the perfect example of someone that combined pure entertainment with absolute proper artistry.
Now, there'll be a lot of people who don't know who Louis Prima is. The way that I would say people are most likely to know him is through the stuff he did for Disney. Would you agree?
I would, absolutely. And I think that's probably where I first heard Louis Prima was on.
He was
King
Louis. I'm the king of the swingers.
Yeah, he was King Louis. It's probably like being a great comedy should feel like you're kind of coming up with it in the moment, right? I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm guessing on a subject I know nothing about, but I thought I might ask you. Given that you're a master.
I'm a mister. I'm definitely a mister. That's 100% true. The other thing Giacomo pointed out to me, this is Giacomo Smith, everybody, who's part of Kansas Smitties, and he plays clarinet and saxophone in my band. Look him up. He's a wonderful guy. He pointed out, he heard this Elvis song. You may not know it, Such a Night. It was a night, ooh, what a night it was. It really was such a night. And he said, God, that's got such a Louis Prima feel to it. And I'd never thought of that. And it's true. And I wonder if Elvis had been influenced by Louis Prima, because he would have been playing lounges in Vegas in the 50s, wouldn't he, Louis Prima? I would imagine.
Absolutely. I mean, that would make total sense. But I think really great musicians and curious ones, they make those connections like mathematicians do.
Yeah. I've got a baby grand piano downstairs, and I can't play it. Now, there must be people watching, listening to this, who want to play the piano. What should I do, Jamie? I want to be able to be entertaining at a party on a piano.
Oh, do you see that's the thing, isn't it? The thing that people always say is that they want to just want to be able to be that guy who no one knows can play the piano that suddenly sits down and impresses.
I also want to be really well built, so I want to be the guy that carries his own piano to the party, then sits down and plays it.
You want to be the Jason Statham of jazz Elvis improv.
Yes.
Okay, got it. Well, do you know what the thing is with my piano playing is I learnt by ear, so I bypass a lot of the stuff that I'm only learning about now, right? So I started doing proper lessons at the beginning of this year. And that's not some like weird humble brag, but anyone in the jazz world that knows what I do really well knows that I bring a lot to the table jazz wise, but in in terms of a kind of really refined ability at the piano. I don't have that, and I've never had that. And what I did when I was kind of young and obsessed with music, but not necessarily playing so much piano, is that I just became obsessed with certain tunes I wanted to learn. And what I would do is because I had an ear, and obviously you have a very highly developed ear for music. I would learn the simplest chords I could and just spend hours and hours trying to piece them together into the song.
So you started off playing it by ear, and at what age? And was what? There's a piano in the house.
Yeah, so I was lucky enough to grow up in a musical house. So my mum used to sing in church, and she used to play guitar. My dad played a bit of guitar, and most importantly, my uncle, he would come over, and he is a really gifted musician. He and my kind of family situation exposed me to great stuff. Then I saw Harry Connick Jr. on the TV. He was playing this amazing stuff on the piano. I thought, man, I want to try some of that, and he was playing a couple of Gershwin songs, and Mum had like a Gershwin chord book somewhere. I wanted to know what the chord information was, and it just seemed like this riddle to solve. I didn't
Yeah.
have anyone to ask. Me and my brother were just trying to figure it out, and we'd find the one note that made the chords that beautiful, and it would feel like we'd seen the doorway to another universe.
I'm a massive Billy Joel aficionado. Tell me of your involvement with Billy Joel.
Well, as you know, Billy Joel has this residency at Madison Square Garden. So he goes once a month. He turns up on one of his vintage motorcycles or in one of his vintage cars, hangs out with his band, does a show, and various people open up for him. I kind of got the call, and he said, "Do you want to come and do one show, and then we'll see how it goes?" And so we went. We opened up. We were the opening act. About 40 minutes before the show, we played a 25-minute set, and I got to meet him. And first of all, playing in Madison Square Garden is beyond any kind of dream I ever imagined. It's the kind of pinnacle of what people do. I mean, obviously I wasn't headlining it, but even just to play before him was amazing. I really wanted Billy Joel to like it. That was my main thing. I was like, that was the only person I wanted to like it, really.
That's where the stakes are so high. The thought
Yeah.
that he might watch it and go, "Yeah, it's not all that. This kid, would be crushing." Presumably, that's not what happened.
That was not what happened, because we got to then do it 8 more times after that. So we kept going back to New York to do this thing. It was so cool.
The other one, there's a song of yours I love, which is the thing, and you wrote this, did you not, for Gran Torino, the Clint Eastwood movie. I mean, that's a beautiful melody and a beautiful song. How did that come about? I mean, it must have been spectacular.
Yeah, that was probably the highlight of anything I've ever done, to be honest. I mean, I wrote Clint was actually quite instrumental in writing some of the
Right.
melody. Clint actually lives most of the time in Monterey, which is in Northern California, and there's an amazing jazz festival there, which features in the film Play Misty for
Yes.
Me, which still goes on. So I played at that festival, and Clint saw me play at that festival, and I remember seeing him in the audience, and thank God it turned out that he was really into it, because him and Kyle and another music producer ended up getting me involved in the Gran Torino songs. And Clint showed me the idea he had on the piano, that very simple da 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 da, just with his one hand. And he said that's what I was hearing when I was reading the script. This is before he's
Wow.
made the movie, just the script at this stage. He said, "I'm hearing this melody, so can you make that into? I'd love to have it as a song at the end of the movie, and we'll base the score around the song." So they loved the demo, and then about 3 weeks later, I went to record it in his house in Beverly Hills. He has this guest house next to his house, and they had a piano put in there. And he said he didn't want to record it in the studio. He said he wanted it to feel like it was a club, and late at night, and there were just like 5 people left, and to do it really live.
Well, it does, because that's one of the things that's so appealing about it. It has a real atmosphere. It's interesting you said I didn't know that, because the song does have a real atmosphere to it. That's
Yeah.
fascinating to hear that, that is captured. I think that really comes across on it.
He just has really clear ideas of what he wants to achieve with anything he does. He's
Yeah,
so
I'm
clear
told that
about
when
what he
he
wants, and I
directs,
think that's
he's
yeah,
not a Stanley Kubrick who wants 1,000 takes. He's apparently
yeah,
do one or two. He goes, "Okay, let's move on. We got. I'm doing Clint Eastwood. Okay, that was a good take. Let's move on.
That's actually very, very good.
I think the thing is just keeping your teeth together like that and talking. Moving slightly sideways, give me your take on this. I've come to jazz, an appreciation of jazz, right across the board, relatively late in life. And the case in point being Kind of Blue. You mentioned Miles Davis, his record. Now, I had a CD of that, and I would put it on, and I could never penetrate it. Then all of a sudden, one day, I put it on the CD player, and I'm mesmerized. And since then, I can't get enough of it. Now, what's going on there? Is there a part of my brain that previously hadn't developed enough? I mean, why would I suddenly go, oh my God, and now I love it?
It's interesting how many people think that listening to jazz you need to be like really kind of understand the technicality of it, or you need to be older, or you need to have a beard, or you need a pipe, or you need something.
Well, did you say a beard or a beer?
A beard, yeah. I mean, both would be ideal, really. But I think having a bit of background, it's a bit like classical music, isn't it? It's a bit of understanding of the background. So sometimes I think to know a little bit about like the history of where it came from African American slaves, and how it was born out of blues music and the music that was sung in cotton fields and stuff, how it kind of was born out of there, and how the rhythms changed, and all that can be really interesting. But actually, when sometimes you can stand in front of a painting and it just all falls into place, and I think it's a bit like that with any music, but I think jazz can be a bit like that. Sometimes you're ready, and you hear the combination of the fact that the musicians are conversing with each other in real time, but they in a way that seems so casual, yet they all have techniques that are the equivalent of any great classical musician. But at the same time, they can also express themselves in the way you and I can when we're just talking to each other, and it's just mind-blowing.
I love the relationship between musicians. I love musicians at least giving the appearance of having a wonderful time and making eye contact. And you just look at them and they're having a great time and they're looking at each other. What's going on as someone who does that himself?
That chemistry between musicians, it's this implicit understanding of what you're doing on your instrument. You can play a phrase, and the saxophonist or whoever the other musicians are, they immediately know, oh, that's this chord and that has this information in it, and he's trying to say that, I'm going to answer that with this. And it just, when it fits together, it's just everyone's kind of artistry kind of fitting together, and it's a satisfaction and electricity, and especially when you don't have to think. You know what it's like when you're just on one you're in the flow state, and sometimes it happens on stage, and when it does, it's the best. That's the drug part, I reckon.
Okay, well, look, let's come back to the present. When is give us the name of the Christmas album?
Well, so it's last year during the pandemic, I made my first Christmas album, and the way I decided to differentiate it from everyone else's Christmas album was I thought I'm going to write 10 original Christmas songs that sound like old songs, so completely brand new songs, and that was called The Piano Man at Christmas. And so, as is the way these days, my label said, look, it was a big success last year, but we think more people are yet to love it, and because it was all originals, people are like, oh, well, I want to hear the standards, so would you consider doing some Christmas classics? So my idea was, why don't I collaborate with brilliant people like Kansas Smitty's, like it's great a singer called Lady Blackbird who's on the record. I'll do some classics. I wrote 2 more originals, so the complete edition of The Piano Man at Christmas is coming out on November the 19th. So that includes the original album and these 12 new tracks, 8 of which are with Kansas Smitty's. And it's very live feeling. It sounds like the party it sounds like the after hours jam session party,
Brilliant. Christmas draws ever near, and with it, he said, I'm doing Terry Wogan, and with it, our time, our old friend on the wall, is against us today, as we see the time is creeping by. We say thank you to Jamie Cullum. Merry Christmas to you, sir, and thank you for doing this.
And to you, Rob. Thanks so much. Great to see you.